much anticipated, long awaited arrival of BYU, now Utah Utes.
Yes, sir.
Logan Fano joins the show. Logan, good to see you, my man. Like, how was the transfer portal process for you? How did that all shake out?
Man, it was really smooth. I was only in for a day, if that, so I didn't really have to experience any of these crazy long recruiting processes that a lot of transfers have to deal with. So I was pretty blessed. I was pretty blessed with my process in the portal.
So let me ask you, I mean, why are you transferring? What ultimately led you to leave BYU?
I mean, obviously the first, probably the biggest reason is it's my dream, it's my family's dream for me to be able to play with my younger brother. So that's a huge deal to me to be able to play with him. But also, I have a lot of dreams that I want to accomplish through football, and I feel like Utah gives me the best chance to do those things.
So what are you not getting? And I think this is obviously everybody has talked about this with you, because before I ask you about what you're not getting at BYU versus Utah, you've had a difficult road. I mean, you go out, you serve a mission. What was your mission experience? How did that impact you?
Well, for everybody that doesn't know, I didn't serve the full time on my mission. I was only out for about 7 to 8 months. And even then, that was hard for me. There was a lot of things I had to find out about myself while I was out. I don't know if anybody's familiar with my man, Jeff Hansen, but we've had a lot of talks about this. Just things that I had to learn while I was out there, and then just things that I was dealing with that was rough. And coming back home from my mission, playing football again, things are going smooth, and I was playing pretty good during spring ball, and then I tore my ACL, and I think in a lot of ways it was just Heavenly Father sending me in the right direction and pointing me towards the U.
You know, but I think what's interesting about that is it takes a little courage for you to sit here on a show and say, hey, you know what? I only served 7, 8 months. It was really difficult for me. I come back, I tear my ACL. I mean, there's the thing that I think you can't avoid in those situations is, hey, dude, we're defining who you are right now, right? Like, I mean, this is character. This is, and Kalani talks about love and relationships and, you know, family. Like, you become something when you come back early off a mission, you get into football, and then you tear your ACL. How did that, when you look back on that period, how much change did you go through in that window?
More change than I've ever been through in my whole life, to be honest with you. Like, before I went out early on my mission and I came back, I had lost in the state championship to Orem, and I got kicked out at halftime. So there's a lot of things that I had built up just mentally that I was dealing with and I was struggling with while I was out there. It's really formed who I am right now. Just seeing myself and seeing what I can go through and what I can overcome, it's super empowering, and I feel like it's given me a lot of confidence in myself.
You know, and Logan, that brings me back to what don't you get at BYU? Because I think a lot of people sensationalize the news of you and your brother transferring, him going to the U. Like, was there an issue at BYU for you? Was there something that was missing that you're getting at the U that you weren't getting at BYU?
Honestly, I love my time at BYU. I really love my time at BYU. I made some lifelong friends, great relationships with the people around me. But at the end of the day, it just came down to me wanting to play with my little brother. That's the most important thing to me. Family is so important to me. And obviously the stars didn't align for him to go to BYU. And also I felt like Utah was the spot for me to go if I wanted to keep playing this game.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things is I think the shock over your brother not going to BYU, not to speak for him, but were you surprised? I mean, how long have you known that he was going to wind up at Utah? Was that long held or was that something that happened very quickly?
No, brother, it was long held. He told absolutely nobody except for my dad, because my dad was pretty mad that he wasn't telling anybody before his decision. And so my dad kind of pressed him. So my dad only knew that he was going to Utah about 20 minutes before he decided.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
How did he makes that announcement? How did that go in the house, dude?
Oh, it was crazy. I've been to a couple signings, and none of them have ever been that loud. Like, people just cheering because everybody wanted him to go to the U so bad.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's happening.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, and I don't mean to get too philosophical about it, but these choices impact the rest of your life. I mean, have you, obviously you have, because I don't think anybody blames you. I have to tell you, I think it takes a lot of courage to transfer from BYU to Utah. You're forever a villain, I think, in some people's eyes. But let's be honest. You're an edge guy. You were highly anticipated out of high school. They put guys in the NFL at the U as a way of doing business. I mean, when you look at this process, does it impact you how much this is going to affect the rest of your life?
Oh yeah, totally. I think that's what I have in mind, right? Is what my life is going to look like and what I'm going to be able to accomplish. And obviously, I got to put the work in, and I got to come in, and I got to do what I can to help the team out. And if I'm not good enough to play at the U, then I'm not good enough to play at the U. And for me, how me and my brother were raised, and how we've always kind of carried ourselves was, if I'm not good enough today, I'm going to be good enough tomorrow, right? If I'm not going to be able to play at the U because I'm not good enough, then I'm not good enough to play in the NFL. And it's simple as that, right? So I feel like coming to Utah gives me a chance to kind of measure up to other guys that have the same goals, same aspirations that I have. And then, being in a room full of people that are going to push me to be my best.
Let's talk about strength and conditioning a little bit, because this has been something, I think, a bit of a controversy at BYU, and we're in the middle of that.
Yep.
Do you feel like the strength and conditioning program at BYU puts you as a football player in the best position to succeed on the field in your chosen position?
Yeah, I feel like the strength staff did a really good job at getting me bigger, getting me a lot stronger. But for me, on my own, I had to go do like speed stuff, work on my fast twitch muscles, just things I feel like a lot of athletes have to do, is just stay active with other people.
But I also think, Logan, and I don't have to tell you this, but I've been around the NFL a long time. I've been around college football a long time. I think let's say an edge rusher, an offensive lineman, right? Or an edge rusher. You have to train specifically for that. You can't train as an edge rusher the way that a linebacker trains, or the way that a D lineman trains, or a DB trains. That's the bone that sticks in my craw, frankly, about the BYU strength program. And I wonder, do you get specific positional training at BYU?
Yes, kind of yes and no. You'll lift with guys in your weight class, your same position, and you kind of have to push a certain amount of weight. But no, you don't have to. Like, there's no special workout for specific positions.
Yeah,
that's what you're asking.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, and I'll be interested to follow you and see how you progress, because what excites you about Utah football? Let's talk about that specifically. Obviously, this is a 2-time Pac-12 championship team now. You're going to the Rose Bowl back-to-back. Like, what excites you about being a Utah Ute football player?
Man, even in high school, I'll be completely honest, I wanted to go to the U out of high school, and I was dead set on going to Utah coming out of high school. But then some things changed, and I decided to go to BYU. So it feels good to be going back to the spot that I had originally planned to be playing.
And how did that decision get made for you? I mean, because again, you're taught, and we hear about this all the time. Well, he's going to serve a mission. Of course, he's coming back and going to BYU, right? Like, what was the church involved in that decision to go to BYU? Like, tell me what made you choose Provo over Salt Lake City, frankly.
No, to be honest, it had nothing to do with the church. That was all me and my decision. My family's a big BYU family, love BYU. My grandparents, there was only 2 channels back in Samoa they could watch TV, and one of them was BYU. So they love BYU, and my grandparents, unfortunately, they've passed away. So I took it kind of upon myself to be able to have their last name on a BYU jersey. And also I would have had the chance to play with my best friend. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I thought about that kind of played into that decision.
Wow, wearing the name on a BYU uniform, bro. Yeah, I mean, again, and I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to be mystic about it, but like, you're talking about like life-changing heavy stuff when you're talking about, hey, wearing your name on a jersey, coming back early, like all that stuff. Like, you've been down the road a little bit. Like, maturity-wise, where are you? Like, how do you feel about where you are as a guy, as a mature football player at this point?
What do you mean by that? By that question? I'm gonna need you to.
Like, are you happy where you are in your maturity? Because I think when you go through what you've gone through, you've probably seen more adversity than most guys in your class and in your age. Whether that is what happened at halftime in your championship game, the knee injury, like all of this stuff you've gone through. Again, I would think that would push you into maturity a little farther down the line than most of the guys in your class.
Yeah, I think it's for sure helped me in my journey and what I need to learn. It sucked. It sucked a lot of times, and obviously I wish things could be different, but it's what I had to go through, what I had to learn. And what I've gone through has been a lot more public than what other people might be struggling with. So I don't know. I wouldn't say it makes me better or worse than anybody else. It's just my journey, what I've had to deal with.
You don't get to choose, dude. Like, that. Like, you wake up every day and you've got decisions and things to deal with, and clearly you've been down that road, and it looks like you've done a great job. I know I've been hounding you for a couple of weeks now. I know that you've had a lot going on. Best to you and the family. Best of luck. We can't wait to see you in a Ute uniform, man. Congratulations on your choice.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Go Utes.
You bet. All right, man. There you go. Logan Fano right there. That's a huge conversation, man. I mean, you got to give that guy credit. Like, that's incredible. And by the way, maybe he should run for office. And I feel like we say this about all these guys, but the answers about BYU are exactly what he should have said.
Yeah.
And again, I go back to this idea of changing. Football changes you. Football matures you very quickly. And you listen to the things he had to deal with. We're talking about issues on his mission, tearing an ACL. Yeah. You come back off your mission. You're in spring ball. You're feeling good. You're ready to go.
Yeah.
You take one step and your entire trajectory as a football player changes.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, is a moment where you're either going to pass or fail. And he clearly passed.
Well, and I think that one step that you take that tears your ACL is an opportunity. And I think that as an athlete, that's how you have to look at it. And I think Logan did that. I think that based on his story and where he's been and everything, like I it's very clear that the mindset's right, that he's ready for adversity. And I think, the thing that hit me the most there is the family stuff.
Yes.
Wearing your name, being the last one in your line to wear a name on the BYU jersey.
Good
and then
Lord.
like being able to have the courage and the cojones to go to Utah. Like I think that's great. And I think that
crushed it.
What was really interesting about what he said to me was and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but basically the inference that Utah football puts guys in the league more than BYU does. That really stood out to me. That Logan, a lot of his choice was, hey, I feel like, because he said, I feel like Utah gives me the best chance to go and do the things that I want to do. And that's really interesting to me because BYU does put guys in the league. But it's no secret that Utah is a defensive NFL guy factory. It's no secret that if you're a defensive lineman, a defensive back, a linebacker, that you're going to go to Utah. Like that's not a secret. Like that is well known. So to me, it makes perfect sense why a guy like Logan, who is an edge rusher, who is a phenomenal athlete, highly touted, is going to do a lot of things, wanted to go to Utah. And I think depending on who you are, you may take that as disrespect. Like if you're a BYU person, you probably are not thrilled to hear that. I also think it's no surprise that, and I give Logan a lot of credit for this, very respectful of BYU in his time there, love that. But it's also no surprise the answer was no. There is no positional training, if you will, like position-specific activity for each position group.
Yeah, that's a shocking oversight at BYU, and that's why you're replacing the entire strength and conditioning program.
And look, I'm not trying to blow things out of proportion with what Logan said, but I do think it's an important conversation. Like there should be like, hey, dude, so you're an edge rusher, right? You're an edge rusher. That means you got to have more legs than other guys. That means that you got to have more athleticism. Those fast twitch muscles.
Yeah. You have to train very differently to get after the quarterback's ass. You do.
Yes.
It's not what a 3 technique is not going to train the way an edge rusher the way a cornerback trains. Like but I want to go back to the mission part of that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The adversity you face when you go out and serve and you come back 7-8 months into it, that's difficult to do. That is not the easiest thing in the world to do. And to come back and immediately tear your ACL, that's a ton of adversity. The quality of that kid, the quality of that man. Let's not call him a kid. That guy's a man making man's choices, having to deal with his grandparents passing away. Talking about having the Fano name on the back of a BYU jersey is massive. Man, when it's in the poly community, your family is everything, right? I mean, it is, and I'm not saying it's not in every community, but in the poly community specifically, one of the things about our guy Jay Taffa, our barber, he is an island guy. He is a New Zealander, right? And his mother passed away recently. Like the profound impact that has on you.
Yeah.
We've talked to him about that. Hearing Logan talk about putting the name on the back of a BYU jersey was huge for my grandparents.
Yeah.
Like these are all foundational things. And I say, go crush it up on the hill, man.
Yeah, dude.
I think he's one of the most exciting things about BYU and Utah football. That transfer, the Fanos transferring, was in my opinion, one of the most important stories. And I think the kid crushed it in the interview.
Yeah, 100%.
I think he absolutely crushed it. I mean, if you're not impressed with that guy, I don't even know what you say. And I agree with Boyd. We've now seen several pairs of brothers transfer to play together. It's not a small thing.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
That's what we said
The
before the
Nakuas,
interview,
the
dude.
Fanos, the Barringtons, absolutely. Absolutely. I think Barfing Chicken says, excited to see him at the U. The only issue I'd have with it is if he steals sacks from my cousin Samote. Well, he's going to steal sacks because I think the kid's going to be an absolute stud.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be an absolute stud. And you know what? Wouldn't you love to see him play BYU?
Yeah.
To suit up for the Utes against BYU, you'd love to see that, man. Like, just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Boyd Lake says QB training should never be the same as any other position group. Most position groups have special fitness needs. Yes. They do. Yes, they do. CKS says, yes, Utes got a massive get in Clegg. Yes, they did. He's official. Clegg's on paper now this morning. Jeremy says, I think that was Taysom's problem at BYU. I remember seeing videos of him squatting more than anyone on the team. Like, what? Granted, Taysom is a freak of nature, but Boyd Lake, I totally agree. And I know that we've talked about this ad nauseum on this show.
Yeah.
You've got to be better and it's been something for over a decade. This goes well back into Broncos time. Here, like, you remember the changes towards the end of his tenure at BYU that Bronco made in strength and conditioning, and they immediately paid dividends on the field.
Do you even
and I'm telling you, if they bring in the right-minded strength and conditioning philosophy,
yes,
you'll immediately see results in Big 12
Well, you
play.
bench.
You will. You absolutely will. And I think you look at Taysom trained like a linebacker, not a quarterback. And I think you're seeing that kind of play in the NFL. The way that he pounds defenders, like you're seeing that in the NFL now.
Yeah.
Romney is another set of brothers that joined via transfer,
Yes.
correct? Blocker and Snowden, future QBs. Yes, I would agree with that. I'm telling you, they're having a huge class. They are. Tanner says, man, I hope the strength and conditioning program improves. Dallin says, I think BYU gets a bad rap for player development, but look at the players in the NFL. How many BYU players and U players can you name? I can name a laundry list of you guys. Eric Rowe with Miami comes to mind. Obviously, Brigham,
Huntley,
Kyle Van Noy, Huntley. I mean, Utah just puts the Lotu Leles,
Moss,
Zach Moss. All of these guys, Jeremiah Potasi, Utah puts guys in the NFL. So does BYU, Kyle Van Noy, Brigham, Danny Sorensen. But where's the skill position guy? Where's the BYU quarterback of late who's gone to the NFL and excelled?
It's not Zach Wilson.
He's struggling. And why? Because he was never sold no at BYU. And you can't go play, live wire football in the NFL.
Yeah.
You're not running around on the driveway anymore, kid. Right? So you're not seeing guys like Mitch Matthews or, top wide receivers from BYU don't translate to top wide receivers in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right? So you look at Puka, you would think that Puka has a phenomenal chance to play in the NFL.
Fred Warner.
Fred Warner's a stud. Absolutely, Fred Warner's a stud.
Yeah.
So, but
So there
again,
you go.
Look at, Jeremy Bolton, you look at Taysom Hill. Taters is a guy that came out of BYU as a quarterback, essentially ends up playing tight end H-back now. He's having a good career. There's no doubt. But he's an athlete. That's exactly right. Taysom is a quarterback, linebacker, tight end, wide receiver, running back, fullback, and your mom. That's exactly right.
I'm for real.
Exactly right. He's a do-it-all guy, including doing your mom. Thank you. Tanner says maybe BYU can do something like what the Eagles are doing. Could be. Dax Mill, not a top player, but a walk-on and is now on an NFL roster. True. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, Arlington Bears. Jamal Williams might be the best recruiting tool that you have.
Yeah.
That is a black kid from the inner city, Inland Empire, California, SoCal, comes in, leaves BYU, comes back to BYU, ends up in the league. Like,
yep.
You look at Tyler Algier, I mean, waiting for that breakout moment with Atlanta, but
Yep.
Tyler Algier's in the league as a running back. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. That's exactly right. And that's what's so surprising about Clark Barrington transferring.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a guy that's going to be an NFL lineman. No doubt about it. Jeremy said, I said it earlier, BYU has more players in the NFL right now making more impact on the field than Utah. It's close. It's closer than it's ever been.
Yeah.
I will say that. It's closer than it's ever been. You know, we'll see. Tanner says Dax is doing fairly well with the Commanders. He is. He is. That's exactly right. They have guys on this team that can do well in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, you got to get guys healthy. Like, I think Max Tooley's an NFL talent. He's probably a safety. I'd be playing him at safety. That's just my opinion. He's an NFL safety. There's no doubt about that. Like,
Yeah.
You have guys on this team, that offensive line is stacked, and it's going to be for another 3 years. Wide receivers are stacked. Tell me Cody Epps isn't an NFL talent. Like,
Yep.
we'll see. I don't know that Jaron can stay healthy to play in the NFL. I would love to see him in the NFL, but I just don't know that he stays healthy.